So I think that the first card that I want to talk about today is Chronicle of Victory. 6 mana for a legendary artifact. As it enters, you choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +2/+2 first strike and trample. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, you draw a card. So it's Glimpse of Nature on a huge buff, and it gives your creatures of the chosen type 2 keywords. So you get some first strike and trample. First strike is important for attacking and blocking, I'll be honest. If you have multiple creatures that have this buff and get first strike, you can hold back your creatures, and your opponents really can probably never profitably attack again. And then if you ever decide to get aggressive, it gives them trample, so they're able to just push damage and just crush your opponent. So I think this card is going to be very strong. EDH staple, playable in other formats? I don't know, but seems cool. Mirror Mind Crown is also awesome. 4 mana for an artifact. It's an equipment. It's 4 mana, equip 2. As long as this equipment is attached to a creature, the first time you create one or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of the equipped creature. It's really cool because you put this on something that you otherwise would not have access to, like multiples of, and it just kind of takes over the game. I'm imagining you put this on something with a relevant ETB. I'm thinking about playing this with Krenko. What creature are we going to enchant with or equip with Krenko on the field? It's not Krenko itself, obviously, because it's a legend, but you equip it to a creature, you tap Krenko, you make a bunch of tokens, but actually the tokens of the thing. You can make it a Goblin Lord. You can do pretty much anything with it. Of course, we have the Return of the Shocks and beautiful art on these shocks. Then we go to the multicolored spells. We have a new evoke creature. Vibrance is 5 mana for a 4/4 double hybrid red-green. When this creature enters, if double red was spent to cast it, this creature deals 3 damage to any target. When this creature enters, if green was spent to cast it, search your library for a land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle, you gain 2, and you can evoke it for double red, double green. Simple, elegant, awesome. I think this card's pretty cool. I really want to talk about Grub's Command. This is a Goblin sorcery. So it's 5 mana, choose 2. Create a token as a copy target goblin you control. Creatures target player controls gets +1/+1 and gains haste until end of turn. Destroy target artifact or creature. Target player mills 5 cards and puts each goblin card milled this way into their hand. So you can kill a creature, draw cards. You can buff your team, or make an extra goblin, buff your team, and any other combination of those abilities is very, very strong. Sinar, innovative first year. I don't really see being played too much in Goblins. However, it's really good in just general 5-color shenanigans. It's 4 mana for a 2/4, Vivid. Beginning of your first main phase, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X non-land cards with X the number of colors among permanents you control. For each of those colors, you may exile a card of that color from among the revealed cards. Then shuffle, you may cast the exiled cards this turn. It doesn't say for free, but it's card advantage. You're every turn looking through your deck. The hits are maze, so you may exile them even if you look at all the cards. You don't have to. And I think that's pretty cool. Abigail is sweet. It's hybrid double white, double black for a 1/1 flying first strike lifelink. When it enters, up to one other target creature loses all abilities. Put a flying first strike lifelink counter on that creature. Somebody, when this card was being spoiled, talked about Yargle. If you just put this on a Yargle, you have a flying first strike lifelink Yargle to try to deal with. That seems super sweet. Merfolk, we're going to talk about them. We don't play Merfolk, but it's a cool card. Deepway Navigator is 2 mana for a flash 2/2. When this creature enters, untap each of the Merfolk you control. As long as you attack with 3 or more Merfolk, this turn Merfolk get +1/+0. So it's a Lord on the attack, and you can flash it in to ready the troops, if you will, and then they can all block and eat your opponent, eat the attackers. Besides that, the rest of the multicolored spells are pretty well known. We have some really cool changelings and the commons and uncommon slot, but what I really want to talk about are the mythics that were spoiled and some of the rares. First off, Bloom Tender's coming back. Much needed reprint for EDH. It's back in standard. Just to see what Bloom Tender does. We have a Pun Meek Attack. 5 mana for an enchantment. You can pay 2. Then you may put a creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand on the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Beginning of the next end step, sack that creature. So it doesn't require you to tap. You can do this multiple times in the same turn. And it's really interesting because you just chuck your little dudes into play knowing that they're going to die. But they do get haste, and it doesn't require you to pay full cost. Now, what are you going to be throwing into play with this? You could be putting in a meteor. No, meteor golem doesn't work. Something that has very high CMC, very low power toughness. The first thing that I thought of with this was Unstoppable Slasher. If you chuck an Unstoppable Slasher into play, then when it gets sacrificed, it doesn't die. It just comes back with 2 stun counters on it, and then you can keep attacking with it next turn. Um, Really good, fast way to take your opponent's life away. Oko is really interesting. Anytime Oko comes back, we have to talk about him. 3 mana for a Planeswalker, enters with 3 loyalty. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may play a green. If you do, transform Oko. +2, up to 1 target creature gains all creature types. The effect doesn't end. That's important because you can just permanently make something a merfolk or a goblin, and then it's either good or bad depending what your opponent has. You can also +1 to target creature gets -2/-1 until the end of your turn, so it's kind of like a pseudo protection. Then the flip, if you pay to green during your first main phase, is -1 mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. -3 make 2/3/3 elk creature tokens, and -6 choose a creature type. You get an emblem with creatures you control of the chosen type. You get +3/+3 vigilance and hexproof. So it comes down to 3 loyalty. You can up to protect your thing. You can immediately flip the next turn by paying a green, and then you can immediately downtick because let's say you used the +1, you're able to shrink your opponent's attacker so it wasn't able to hit the Oko for any damage, or you already have blockers down, and then you're able to immediately start generating 3/3s. And then the cool thing about Oko on the backside is a lot of flipwalkers have no way to return to their original side. So once you flip the Oko, the next main phase, you can pay a blue and flip him back, and then uptick him. So I'm thinking it goes something like this. You go +1, -3, +2, -3. Okay, the Wi-Fi died on me, but we got it back. We got it connected. I think the last thing that I was talking about was Oko. Every time that we see Oko, it's busted. This time, not so much. I do think that Aurora Awakener is going to be really good in 5-color domain decks in EDH, and possibly could even be played in some standard decks. Not 1,000%, but I think it could be good. 7 mana for a 7/7 when a creature enters the field, reveal cards from the top of your library to reveal X permanent cards, or X the number of colors among permanents you control. Put any number of those permanent cards on the battlefield, then put the rest of the cards at the bottom of your library in any order. And so it counts the number of permanent cards you control. It doesn't require them to all be of the same color. So let's say you have Leyline of the Guild Pact in play. You can play mono green and flip 5 permanents. It does hit lands, which is not the greatest. But if you just play it in a deck that's full of permanents, it's kind of amazing. Bloom Tender's back in standard. Champion of the Weird is a goblin. 4 mana for a 5/5. There's an additional cost to cast. You behold a goblin and exile it. Pay 1 life, blight 2, which means you put 2 -1/-1 counters on creatures you control, on a creature you control. Target opponent blights 2. Will activate only as a sorcery. So, and when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled creature to its owner's hand. So you can do some really cool things with this card. It comes down, and let's say you just need removal. You don't really care about, you have a board, but you need to get through some blockers. You can play this for 4, reveal a 1-drop in your hand, and exile it. Then you can pay a life to put 2 -1/-1 counters on this creature, making it a 3/3, but also making your opponent put 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature they control. Then you can do that a second time, and even a third time. As you put the last counters on this creature, it dies, and you get the 1-drop back that you exile from your hand. And you've basically to give one creature, if they only have one creature, -6/-6, or to take out multiple tiny creatures. So I think this card might actually be good. And even though it's only as a sorcery, you still have the ability to choose when and where you want to do it. And if you have a huge board, if you have a Krenko, for example, you're tapping Krenko to make tokens every single turn. You can put the blight counters on one of the tokens. It dies, but that doesn't really matter. And then you can just repeatedly, as much life as you're willing to pay, nuke your opponent's board the entire game. So I think Champion of Weird is actually really good. Alendra's Answer is definitely an EDH card, phrased specifically for EDH. 4 mana for an instant. The spell can't be countered. Counter all spells your opponents control and all abilities your opponents control. Create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying for each spell and ability countered this way. So you ever get in EDH where there's a giant stack people are countering people's stuff, and there's all sorts like deflecting SWAT, everything's going crazy. Glenalendra's answer, you're literally like, you know what? All of that's gone, and I get bodies. I think that card's amazing in EDH. Not so good in standard or any other constructed format, but I think in EDH would be fun. Curious Colossus is 7 mana for a 7/7. When it enters, each creature target opponent controls loses all abilities, becomes a coward in addition to its other types, and has base power 1/1. This does not say end of turn. Another card that we're going to be talking about soon does not say until end of turn. So it feels like these cards are very pushed because they are permanent changes to the battlefield. And Curious Colossus, when it comes down, if you're playing deck that it doesn't hurt is the Ouroboros deck. But if you're playing Curious Colossus comes down and makes your boards 1/1s and says, "Ha, your creatures are cowards." What's up, Matt? Appreciate you dropping in. The Goblin support seems so much better than the Elves and Modern Goblins brewing on mtga. Yes, big shout out to my buddy. Oh my god, I dropped my head. My buddy Matt. One of the best. What is it? Samwise combo players that I've ever met. Really good Yawgmoth player. Really good. There was another junk combo deck. It was Samwise, and there was another one. But if you're talking about creature combo deck, Matt's the guy that we want to have on our side. And to hear that he's interested in brewing Modern Goblins is going to be a big shot in my arm because it's nice to have somebody else to talk to the lists about. All right, what's up, Derek? Appreciate you dropping in. Looking for cards that disrupt or improve the current meta. So let's just skip down to Hexing Squelcher. 2 mana, ward, pay 2 life. Spells you control can't be countered. Other creatures you control have ward, pay 2 life. This is our better 2. We've been looking for a good 2-drop. This is an amazing 2-drop in our Goblins deck, and it makes it so that we cast this with a Cavern. They can never counter any of our spells. It means that it also says spells. It doesn't say creature spells, anything. No conditions. Also, there's so many type lines on this type bar. I thought for sure it was a legend the first time I looked at it, but these can stack. You can have 5. Yes, with Mirror Form, we will be playing 5 of these. I do want to make this deck, but you could have up to 4 of these in play, right? And every time that they target or cast a spell to kill one, they're going to take 8 damage. Mirror Form is a card I want to talk about. 6 mana, instant. Each non-land permanent you control becomes a copy of target non-aura permanent. It can target a land. It can also target your opponent's Craterhoof. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It already had a CTB. Bad example. But you get what I'm saying. You pick the best creature on the battlefield, and all of your non-land permanents turn into that creature permanently. Or, in older formats, you can target Smothering Tithe. All your treasures become copies of Smothering Tithe. Just be careful if someone's going to redirect. They can redirect Lightning this to target one of your lands, and then all of your non-land permanents become lands, and you probably lose. But it's a really cool design. I think it looks really cool. Besides that, I think the Convoke mechanic is really good in this set. Selfless Safe Right, 5 mana for a 4/2 with Flash and Convoke. When this creature enters, choose a creature type. Other permanents you control of that type gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So it could be a 2 mana Flash. All things besides this get hexproof and indestructible, and that's pretty good. Besides that, there's really only a couple more that I wanted to talk about. I think Lava Leaper is really good. 4 mana for a 4/4. All creatures have haste. Whenever a player taps a basic land for mana, player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. So you play this in mono red, where you play all mountains, and you untap on turn 5 with 10 mana. Actually insane. Winnowing is 6 mana for a sorcery with Convoke. I immediately wanted to play this in Boros Goblins. For each player, you choose a creature that player controls. Then each player sacrifices all other creatures they control that don't share a creature type with the chosen creature they control. You choose 2 creatures, 1 for each player, each of us. In this situation, it would be you and I. So I choose a creature that both of us control. I choose a creature that you control and a creature that I control. And we sack all other creatures that don't have the same creature type as that. I choose a goblin, and you probably have a couple different creature types because most people don't play Kindred. Probably worse after this set comes out, if I'm being honest. But And then it's like a one-sided wrath, which is actually insane. Honorable mention: Iron Shield Elf is a 2-mana discard outlet. Free discard outlets are always busted, so this is good to see. Harmonized Crescendo is interesting. For an instant, convoke, choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. Simple, elegant, awesome. I think the Champions of the Perfect card is actually busted, but people don't really like it. 4 mana for a 6/6 Elf Warrior. Behold an elf as you cast it. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. It's a 4 mana 6/6. It's gotta be good. The new Goblin that prevents countering, though. Also the card that's an instant win with Splinter Twin. Yeah, no, we just talked about ridiculous. Immediately slots into so many decks. I would say in the conversation for probably one of the best goblins of all time. Like, yes, it's annoying. The ward is annoying. You can still kill it with a murder. It doesn't matter what kind. However, making your spells uncounterable in a creature type that really wants to resolve your spells is huge. Then there's a bunch of other like support. You can look at all this stuff. I'm not really going to read through all of this, but again, just beautiful things to see. It's really awesome. Tomorrow we're going to be getting some more stuff. And yeah.